This is based on a chilling true story that occurred in 2013 in Malacca, Malaysia. A group of 5 friends, all in their late 20s, went on an exploration that would soon turn into a nightmare. The location? An abandoned hospital on Bukit Cina, notorious for its haunted reputation. The hospital had been left to decay since the 1950s, but locals still claimed it was alive with paranormal activity. However, these friends, drawn by their thirst for adventure, thought the stories were just myths. The hospital was hidden behind overgrown vines and walls, cracked with age. The group arrived just before midnight, the air thick with humidity, and the streets eerily quiet. As they entered, the first thing that hit them was the smell, a mix of rotting wood, mold, and something metallic, as if the hospital itself were bleeding. Armed with only their phones for light, they wandered down long, dark hallways. The further they went, the colder it became, a stark contrast to the tropical heat outside. The atmosphere grew heavy, as if something was watching them. Sarah, one of the group, noticed faint footprints in the dust. The strange part? They were fresh. No one had been there for years, or so they thought. A sense of unease crept in, but they brushed it off as nerves. After all, it was just an old building, right? As they reached an old operating room, everything changed. The temperature dropped drastically, and the room was filled with an unnatural silence. Suddenly, they heard a soft, raspy voice. It was faint, almost like a whisper carried on the wind. "Did you hear that?" John asked, his bravado faltering. Everyone nodded, fear beginning to take hold. The whisper grew louder. Sarah's flashlight flickered, and in the beam of light she saw something horrifying. A figure standing in the hallway, wearing an old nurse's uniform. The figure was pale, eyes hollow, and it was looking directly at her. The nurse lifted a finger to her lips as if to say, "Shh!" Sarah screamed, and before anyone could react, the door behind them slammed shut with a force that shook the room. All the lights on their phones went out simultaneously. They were plunged into darkness, and for a moment, nobody dared to move or speak. Panic set in. They fumbled for the door, but it wouldn't open. It was as if the building had trapped them. The air around them grew colder still, and then, they felt it. Cold, bony hands brushing against their skin. One by one they felt touched by something that wasn't there. John, now frantic, yelled at the group to get out, but the layout of the hospital had changed. The hallways led to dead ends. Doors that should have taken them back outside now opened into empty, twisting corridors. No matter how many turns they took, they ended up back in the same operating room. It was as if the hospital itself had become a maze. Suddenly, they heard faint cries and footsteps echoing around them. Were they alone? Or were there more trapped souls just like them? Sarah began to panic, hyperventilating as they tried to calm her down, but something moved in the shadows. Flickers of movement passed in the corners of their vision, too fast to catch but enough to paralyze them with fear. Desperation set in. They split up, hoping that one of them might find a way out. Minutes passed, and the cries they had heard earlier grew louder, turning into blood-curdling screams. One by one their voices began to disappear. First John's voice vanished into the darkness, then Amy's. Sarah was left alone, curled up in a corner of the operating room, rocking back and forth. The cold hands touched her again, gently at first, but then with more force. The whispers returned, now louder, more distinct. The nurse, the one she had seen earlier, was standing over her again, this time smiling a wide, terrifying grin. The figure leaned in close to Sarah, whispering in her ear. The next morning, locals found Sarah alone, her eyes wide with terror, muttering incoherently. The rest of her friends were never found. Despite multiple searches of the hospital, it was as though they had simply vanished. Sarah never spoke about that night again, but locals say that even today, you can hear the whispers of the lost souls in that abandoned hospital. The old hospital on Bukit Cina remains a forbidden place, and few dare to go near it after dark. Whether the friends were taken by spirits or the hospital itself remains a mystery. Some say the hospital is a gateway to another realm where those who enter never truly leave. The haunting of Bukit Cina's abandoned hospital serves as a reminder that some places once touched by darkness are best left alone.